GitHub Copilot is like a AI pair programmer. It helps like developers write code faster by reducing repetitive tasks and also provides solutions by predicting what they need to do based on the context of their work. Repetitive tasks like writing a document string or like something related to formatting the code or styling, writing some boilerplate code, debugging some code, testing some code, or also getting some reviews on the code and refactoring the code. These are like many repetitive tasks that GitHub Copilot will help you in the best way possible, and it also helps you in generating the code, and like for example, like if you have a complex logic implementation, it can help you generate that as well. Automated documentation, and GitHub Copilot will help you get a plan on your testing and validation. We just go to extensions and search for GitHub. You see GitHub Copilot here, just install it and then it will ask you for a sign up. And there is also one more extension that's called GitHub Copilot Chat. This will give you a chat option to chat with the GitHub Copilot directly. How GitHub Copilot internally works. The first step is code context collection. As a developer types in the integrated development environment, which is IDE, GitHub Copilot continuously monitors the code around the cursor, including the current line and the relevant function or class scopes. It also analyzes other open tabs in the IDE to gather additional context, which could include related files and directory structures. So that's the first step, and then it uses that to construct a prompt. The gathered context is then used to create a prompt. The prompt is essentially a compilation of relevant code snippets and comments that inform the AI model about the current coding task. The better the context, the better, the more accurate the suggestions will be. So once the prompt is ready, it is uh, sent to a proxy service hosted on GitHub backend. This service performs several critical functions based on my understanding, like toxicity filtering, like it checks for any toxic language or irrelevant content that could compromise the integrity of such suggestions. Then it checks the relevance, like for example, if the prompt is pertinent to a software development task, and it also blocks any attempts to trick the model into generating inappropriate content. Then it pass that to the AI model after sanitization. So the clean prompt like is forwarded to OpenAI models. So I am not very sure which models they use, but I feel that they use the latest GPT models depending on the task requirements. So for real-time code suggestions, the system aims for low latency, typically like a response time of 300 to 400 milliseconds, which is why like the smaller models can be faster, right? So they can choose that the model based on the task. And once AI model gives some response, the output generated by the AI model is sent back to the GitHub proxy for additional cleaning, like code quality checks. Like for example, if there are any potential security vulnerabilities or license compliance, like it checks if the suggested code or snippets contain any code in like copyright content or something like that. Then it does the final delivery. It sends back to the IDE where it shows like a suggestion. Let's see one very simple example on understanding the flow of this GitHub. Basically, I want to demo you how GitHub gives you like auto suggestions on the editor. So this is my VS Code. I have created a simple HTML file, and I have added a few comments here, like it like create a function that will calculate salary of an employee given the number of hours worked, and based on like the hours worked, if it's greater than 40, the employee is paid 1.5 times regular salary. So there's some conditions. So now what I do is I just click enter, and I click tab. So once I click tab, GitHub shows me this suggestions, which it's received from the same workflow just now I mentioned. Like it sends it constructs a prompt based on these comments, and then it sends it to the proxy. There it checks for any toxicity, so there is no toxicity here, any irrelevant content here, so this is the coding task. Then it sends to the OpenAI model to generate the response, and that's how it is back to the editor. So let's see one scenario. Like, for example, you are going to a travel agent and you are asking him to create a plan for you to go to Japan for 7 days. Then uh, can the travel agent like think what is in your mind and directly give you? No, right? So basically he needs some context, like on what is your budget, like what are the destinations you want to go in Japan, and like what are the departure and return dates, and like also the preference of you want a non-stop or layovers. So this is a context that is needed for the travel agent to give you a exact plan, right? Similarly, that is how LLMs like Copilot will need the context to give you a specific answer you want. What does Copilot interpret as a prompt? It can be like a comment. So you have some comments here. It can interpret as a prompt. That is one case. And also, like if you want to ask some questions here, that will be a prompt. So it can be in the form of question, statement, or description of what you want Copilot to do. Copilot is probabilistic and not deterministic. What I mean by that is Copilot's LLMs are sophisticated probability engines. So you might not get the same results for the exact prompts every time. Guys, this slide is very important. So pillars of effective prompt building. You have to make sure when you build a prompt, you give a lot of context so that Copilot can understand your task. And the second one is make sure you will have a goal and purpose when creating a prompt. You make sure you mention your goal and purpose. And the third one is the clarity. Make sure your prompt is less ambiguous and easy to understand. And the fourth one is the level of detail and precision of the prompt. For example, if you want to generate code for a specific library, make sure you mention that library in the prompt. How you can improve the way you pass context is add a high-level description at the top of your file. Make sure you keep it like steps, exactly what your code should do, keep it like steps, and it will better generate the code based on these instructions. So if you see, I have added a first initialize a task class with description, completion status, and then add a task, remove a task, and display all tasks. So it kind of generates in the same order. So display task, save task. Cool. This is cool, right? So make sure you include a high level description at the top of your file and provide the steps to improve the way you pass context. How we can improve the intent, the goal or purpose we have? One way is you can add the example, like what is the expected input and expected output. So the more clearer your goal inside the prompt, the better the generation will be. Now if you see, so I have mentioned in the example here, the add task function should take a task description and add it to the task list. So this is an example that explains the task logic in a more clearer way and helps to make sure the expectation is reached. How we can improve the clarity? So I have created this a simple py math operation.py file. It just has two functions, add numbers or subtract numbers. I have opened another file here which has a very simple say that says like print sum of two numbers and difference of two numbers. So if you see, when I click enter, it shows me from math operations import add numbers and subtract numbers. So one way to improve the clarity is you can open the relevant files that you are importing these functions from, so it will be sent in the prompt generation as well. You can ask GitHub Copilot to improve your prompts. So the way you can do it is, so for example, consider I don't have any functions here and I just put these comments as a prompt, and now GitHub Copilot helps me generate this code. So now I will ask Copilot how my previous prompt could be improved. So it says specify the function names and type hints, doc strings, include doc strings to describe what each function does, show how to call. So this is one way you can improve your prompt. I want to show you like one more bonus tip, that is when you click on tab you get some suggestions, right? And when you hover on it, you see there's this thing that comes up and it gives you suggestions. Like when you click on right side, it either shows you if you want to comment, if you want to extend this with comment more instructions, you can go for that, or you can go to this. So there will be this is a suggestions, like if GitHub like gave you like 3 to 4 suggestions for your code logic, you can see it from here. This is very cool. Really like from GitHub Copilot is a command called Workspace. So it is once you tag this, you can ask any question from your workspace, like from your repository. So for example, we have a file which has like multiplication and subtraction. So this is a very simple file that I have. Now I don't open this file. I go to this chat and I ask search my repo with multiply and subtract functions and write unit tests to cover. So now it's deciding which workspace information to collect, and it has 4 references. So it uses this, it goes to all of them, and you see it's created a unit test file which tests this subtract numbers from this folder, sorry, from this math operation file. And also I don't have a multiplication, sorry, it was add numbers. I think that's why it didn't generate any test cases for it. So this is very cool. So if you have some folder with some hundreds of files, and you can ask GitHub Copilot to, for example, if you want to write specific unit tests for some specific functionality, this will be very helpful.